So several blockbuster trades are happening this offseason. And honestly, after the finals, that feels like an understatement. Because the NBA used to have a few deals sprinkled throughout. Then last year happened. Luka, Anthony Davis, De'Aaron Fox, Zach LaVine, Brandon Ingram, Jimmy Butler, and even Kevin Durant all got moved. But most people forgot about 2021. We saw 16 trades involving 46 players switching teams. And this year's summer will be no different. We know superstars like Giannis, LeBron, and Ja are still in the market. But we've got some new names leaking out every single day. So today we are revealing one trade every NBA team needs to make this offseason. Let's get it. Welcome back to another edition of the Hampton Show. Joel is out today celebrating the New York Knicks championship parade. But I'm right here, and it is officially trade season. So today we are revealing one NBA trade every single team needs to make this offseason. And first, we're going to start with the Houston Rockets. This, to me, feels like the most obvious deal that no one is talking about. 1 year ago, the San Antonio Spurs tried to trade for Kevin Durant, and somehow it makes even more sense now. Swapping out De'Aaron Fox for Kevin Durant would give San Antonio a true number 1A co-star next to Victor Wembanyama. It would give them a true closer next to Victor Wembanyama. It would also pave the way for the Spurs to start Dylan Harper, which they needed to do throughout the finals. And if KD didn't want to extend there, they get off De'Aaron Fox's contract. Doing so would allow them to get out of having to pay De'Aaron Fox over $200 million for the next several years. I was looking at the contract today, and 5 years from now, at age 32, De'Aaron Fox would be making $61 million for the San Antonio Spurs if they do not choose to trade him. So the obvious question would be, why would Houston want to do this? Well, the answer to that question is simple. They could pry away draft capital from San Antonio. San Antonio still has that stock of draft capital that they did not use last summer. Houston could get more on that. They could ease their win now timeline like I was talking about last week. And the one thing that Houston missed last year more than anything was a point guard. You saw Alperen Şengün suffer because of it. Are you really going to rely on Fred VanVleet to step back into that role coming off a torn ACL? I don't know if you are. Jabari Smith suffered from it. Amen Thompson even suffered from it. De'Aaron Fox would be steady point guard in Houston that they need. And not to mention, if you got 1, 2, 3 first in return. I know that feels crazy giving it up for Kevin Durant, but the draft capital would not be for Kevin Durant. It would be getting off of De'Aaron Fox's $240 million contract. If you got those picks in return, that's a safety net. If De'Aaron Fox doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But what Houston's doing right now, if they just run it back with KD, it's not good enough to compete in this Western Conference. And I'm not arguing if they swap him for De'Aaron Fox, that is good enough. But what I am arguing, it would be a better situation than what they're in right now, with more picks, with a steady point guard, and easing their win now pressure. I think the Rockets would benefit from that long term. I think Şengün would benefit from that long term. He would go back to looking like a potential All-NBA player in the future. And that's what he missed. KD did not make anybody around him better. They suffered from injuries. And the beautiful thing about San Antonio, he doesn't need to make Victor Wembanyama better. He doesn't need to make Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle better. He just needs to step in and drop 25, and he can do that with his eyes closed, even at the age he's at. So these two Texas teams, Houston, San Antonio, that seems like an obvious trade that isn't being talked about, but that needs to be a conversation in both front offices about, hey, how can we get off De'Aaron Fox's money? And B, how can we ease this fractured locker room in Houston? Because you can say what you want. After KD had that burner scandal, to me, there's no turning back to that. Not to mention all the on-court stuff that they suffered and getting swept. Was it swept or was it 5 games? I think it was 5 games in the first round to a Luka-less Lakers team and an Austin Reeves-less Lakers team. That was just embarrassing. And who knows if they even make it that far if KD returns this season. Let's get into the next team, Indiana Pacers. Short list of guys here. This team doesn't have a lot of money, and they don't have a lot of trade assets. They made their big trade at the deadline for Ivica Zubac. It cost them the number 5 overall pick, unfortunately, but they need affordable wings next to Tyrese Halliburton and next to Zubac. They had to give up Ben Mathurin in that deal, and now they need to put as many good players around Tyrese as they can. The LA Clippers, a team that was in that deal with the Pacers, it seems like there was a lot of noise on the internet, at least this week, about them getting involved in the Giannis trade. Knowing Steve Ballmer and seeing what he has done over the last several years, he's always in win-now mode. And the rumored trade was this. The Clippers would get Jaylen Brown. The Celtics would get Giannis, Bobby Portis, and Brook Lopez. The Bucks would get that number 5 overall pick from the Clippers. They'd get the number 27 overall pick. They'd get a 3rd and 4th future first-round picks. That'd be 4 total first-round picks. They'd get Bogdanovich to match money, Derek Jones, Isaiah Jackson, and Hugo Gonzalez. But they would have 3 firsts, including their own, in this historic upcoming draft next week. I think the Clippers are probably doing everything they can to get involved in a deal like this, and no one would be surprised if they forgo the 5th overall pick to go get a star player right now. Let's move on to the other team in LA, the LA Lakers. Joel has been super steady with what he thinks the Lakers should do, and he thinks it involves a sign and trade from Austin Reeves to Jalen Duren, flipping AR-15 to Jalen Duren. They're both free agents this year, but they're probably going to be in that same price range, and a sign and trade involving them, he thinks, and I think too, would fit better around Luka in this future. Moving on to my team, the Memphis Grizzlies here locally. I think the trade they need to make happens before next Tuesday night. They need to trade back into the top 12. They already have number 3 overall. They're not going to climb any higher than that with Utah or Washington. They're desperate for a star as well. So they're going to stick at 3. But what I would like to see this team do is go ahead and check their guard of the future off the list too. They have Ty Jerome on the roster right now. He's on one of the best contracts in the entire NBA if he can stay healthy. But whoever you get at 3, Cam Boozer or Darren Peterson or Caleb Wilson, whoever it is, they're going to need a point guard for the future. And if you could find a way back up into the top 10 maybe, which is, I know it's greedy, but Zach Kleiman, their GM, has a history of trading up for guys he wants. He did it just last year with Cedric Coward. He did it for Desmond Bane. He did it for the late, great R.I.P. Brandon Clark. He has done it for so many pillars of this franchise, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Grizzlies go all in and do it again. Next is the Miami Heat. Obvious Giannis team. According to multiple sources, including The Athletic, including ESPN, Miami has offered Tyler Hero, Khalil Ware, Jaime Jaquez, Pele Larson, and 3 first-round picks for Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Bucks haven't taken it, which means one thing. They're not excited about this package. They're canvassing the entire league to see if they can get any more from that. Because if that excited them, if they were super ecstatic about that, they would have taken it the first second it was offered. Instead, they haven't. I'm not going to say they will not take it. It might be the best offer on the table. Who knows? But they're going to do everything they can to try to get more. So it shows that the Bucks aren't excited about this. Miami can only offer that much as their maximum offer. They're kind of capped out as far as what else they can do. They just got to hope that no other team gets as intrigued as they are about Giannis Antetokounmpo. Next, the Milwaukee Bucks. Simple answer there. We just talked about it. Minnesota Timberwolves are the 8th team on this list. They need a reliable star not named Julius Randle next to Anthony Edwards. Some of the names that come to mind: Kyrie Irving, a cheap version; Ja Morant. Yes, they've been involved with Giannis. They called about him in February, but I think a more realistic option for them is Kyrie Irving. What did the Dallas Mavericks do in this draft to build around Cooper Flagg? Is it to go out and get a guard of the future? Because if that's the plan, Kyrie becomes really expendable. If I was Dallas, I'd do everything I can to trade him before the draft. I don't know if you're going to get the best possible offers for him. Yes, he's coming off a torn ACL, but once you draft a point guard, if that is their pick, everybody knows that Kyrie is expendable and you're not going to get the best offer. That's what the Grizzlies are dealing with right now with Ja Morant. They know that they have a number 3 overall pick in. They want to get rid of Ja, and nobody's offering anything. Not to mention Ja has off-court stuff. Ja has 2 years left on his contract. Ja also has reliability issues, but frankly, Kyrie does too at this point in his career. Let's move on to the New Orleans Pelicans. Look, I don't have a lot to say here. I'm not here to bash teams. Hiring Jamal Mosley doesn't clarify their direction. I don't know what the future of this team is. They don't know the future of this team. All I'm going to say, New York Knicks, let's go to the other end of the spectrum. They need to do nothing. What they have done, and I know people have spoken on it, we've released a video that's titled, "This is the greatest championship run in the history of the league," which it is. They need to do nothing. Doesn't mean they're the best team, doesn't mean they're becoming a dynasty, but it's crazy how fast things change in the NBA. OKC wins it last year. They're never going to lose for the rest of the decade. San Antonio beats in the Western Conference Finals. San Antonio is never going to lose the rest of the decade. Even going back 2 years ago, Boston wins it in 2024. Who's going to go through them in the East? Well, it turns out a lot of teams have, Philly and New York included. Things are ever evolving in the NBA, and there's been 8 different NBA champions 8 years in a row. I don't know if New York is going to repeat. I don't know the answer to that, but what I do know is this team had excellent chemistry, excellent work ethic, and excellent camaraderie. The last thing they need to do is break that up. It's simple, as simple as that. Let's move on to the Atlanta Hawks. 11th team on this list. They seemed super intrigued with big wings, whether that's Jaylen Brown. They, took a flyer on Jonathan Kuminga at the deadline. It seems like they want to put a defensive wing next to Jalen Johnson, which they should. Double J average damn near a triple-double, 23, 12, and 8. If you listen to this show, you know how much I quote that stat. Jalen Johnson, according to his peers in an athletic poll where 161 current NBA players were polled, all of those players that were voted that Jalen Johnson was the most underrated guy in the NBA. That's not just me saying that. That's his peers saying that. So they need to do everything they can to capitalize on it. They were the only team to beat the New York Knicks twice in this playoff run. The only team to do that. So it doesn't surprise me that they want to go all in on what they have and the superstar they have in Jalen Johnson. That's why you've seen their name get brought up in a Jaylen Brown deal. You've seen their name get brought up in other superstars that are on the market or as a third team in a Giannis trade. They want to get better, and I think they will. I don't know the answer to that, but I think it involves a little bit more pop off the bench outside of C.J. McCollum, and I think it involves having a defensive wing next to Jalen Johnson. That's their plan for success moving forward. Boston Celtics, another team in the East. I don't understand why they are shopping as much as they are. Doc Rivers was on Bill Simmons' podcast this week, and he said something that was very valid and made me sit back and think. Doc had said, whenever I coached the Celtics, we could have all of these conversations about trading a star, a secondary star, a third star, and nobody would find out. 20 years later, 2 decades later, you have one conversation and the player finds out 10 minutes later from a report on Twitter. But the organization has to have those conversations. The front office is not doing their job unless they have those conversations. So that was a perspective shift for me, because as somebody who's chronically on NBA Twitter, I feel like they are shopping Jaylen Brown like it's nothing. But Doc Rivers made a great point. Who knows if they actually want to do it or not? They're just trying to do their due diligence on what the best path moving forward is. To me, it's not trading Jaylen Brown. You've seen that duo win a title. You've seen that duo have chemistry. And before Jason Tatum tore his Achilles in the playoffs last year, you've seen that duo be extremely durable. Jaylen Brown was an all-NBA player last year, top 15 guy in the league. Jason Tatum, we expect him to be that next year. So whenever you have two guys like that are similar in age, why break up that timeline and trade for a 31, 32-year-old less durable star? I don't understand that. I think the move is on the edges with them. I think it's an Onyeka Okongwu. I think it's a Daniel Gafford. I think it's a big that fits in that timeline with JT and JB. That is the answer for Boston. Brooklyn Nets, Ja Morant. They need to sell tickets. They don't own draft picks moving forward. They have to do something. They can't tank this year. The rules have changed. They have to put asses in seats, and I think Ja Morant does that. Ja has chronically been in New York City throughout the offseason through his partnership with Nike, through his events with EYBL. I think Ja would like to be in a bigger market like that. Not to mention, it would be the complete opposite of everything that went on in Memphis. In Memphis, it has been super split on what the fans here want to do. And Ja has felt that. Ja has brought that upon himself. Look, I wish I could turn this camera to my left. To my left, there is a 5-foot by 5-foot poster of Ja in a Grizzlies jersey. He is my favorite player of all time. However, it is time for the Grizzlies to move on. They have known it. I have known it. And I think the Nets would be one of the most fun destinations because I just want to see him with the car keys in his hands. That's what he's wanted in Memphis. The reason that his camp and him have gotten to this point with the franchise is not because of them firing Taylor Jenkins. It's not because of them trading Desmond Bane. It's not even because of them trading Jaren Jackson. It's not even because of the off-court trouble. What this is about is simple. It's a story as old as time in this league. The Grizzlies, what they did 3 years ago. As soon as Jaren Jackson was eligible to get a max extension, they gave it to him. As soon as Desmond Bane was eligible to get a max extension, they gave it to him. As soon as Ja Morant was for his secondary extension, his second max extension, they did not give it to him. That was last summer. You go into this year, franchise is telling Ja, we need to see a little bit more. You've played a combined 79 games in the last 3 years. We need to see more before we went over 200. Completely fair sentiment. Ja takes it personally. He's now down to his third agent. He started with his first 3 years with an agent, fired him, hired Mike Miller 3 years ago, fired him last year, and now is self-represented. The thing about being self-represented in the NBA, if you're trying to move teams, it does not behoove you to be self-represented. The guys who represent themselves are guys that are just re-signing with their own teams, a Shea or whatever. These guys, if you don't have a Rich Paul trying to make moves for you, then it's very hard to do so, and especially to make a franchise like the Grizzlies pay you whenever you've played that much in the last 3 years, or that little in the last 3 years. So what cracked Ja and this franchise is money. Like I said, story as old as time. How do you think De'Aaron Fox got paid a $240 million extension before he ever played a game for the San Antonio Spurs? Rich Paul. And you can insert whatever big agent name. It's not, Rich isn't the only one who can do this. It's any other big name agent in the NBA. They can go to these teams and say, hey, I want you to take care of my guy here, take care of De'Aaron Fox, or I'm going to give you problems with name whatever player. Or, hey, we may negotiate harder for name whatever player. Or, hey, I may pluck name whatever player and move him somewhere else or demand a trade somewhere else. That's how they can get these exuberant, it seems like overfilled extensions paid early to these guys where you kind of look like, is that worth it? That's a leverage these guys have, and Ja Morant's put him in a precarious position where he really can't control anywhere that he goes from now on. It's just about whether Zach Kleiman, the GM of the Grizzlies, wants to do right by him. Charlotte Hornets, next team on this list. We're halfway done, y'all. Jabari Smith, Aaron Gordon, they just need some type of defenders, more defenders in Charlotte, I would say, outside of Grant Williams coming off the bench. I think it's time to move on from Miles Bridges. He's, I think, been the longest tenured Hornet on that roster, a guy I interviewed back in September. But they need more perimeter defense. That's why they need another play-in this year. Super excited by them, and I don't know if you guys can see it. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can see it. It's over my left shoulder. So YouTube plaques there on the wall. If you look on the other side of the light bar right there, that is jersey that the Charlotte Hornets sent me. I think I said it a couple weeks ago, but I didn't get to show you guys. It just got framed. Super thankful for them, and they're my favorite team in the East. Not even close. Let's move on to the Chicago Bulls. Derek Lively is a name that I'm watching out for Chicago. Everyone knows they have enough guards. They got the number 4 overall pick. Their future, their franchise star of the future is going to be taken care of in the top 4 picks of this draft. So they need to get a big man of the future, and I think Derek Lively could be that. Cleveland Cavaliers, they need perimeter defense. Their hands are tied financially. Derek Jones Jr. seems like he would be an answer. They just need more athleticism and switchability. Max Strus is great, but I would like him to come off the bench instead of having to play big minutes. Derek Jones Jr. athletically can handle whatever type of player you have to defend in the Eastern Conference, including a Jalen Brunson. By the way, I want to back up. DJJJ is not going to shut down Jalen Brunson. He's just going to do a better job than Max Strus on the Brunson. That's all I'm saying. All right. Let's move on. Dallas Mavericks, I said it before, trade up for a point guard in the draft. Denver Nuggets, I like a Jabari Smith here as well. Aaron Gordon has just broken down too much for you these last couple postseasons. They need a younger, more durable option there, and I think Jabari Smith could be that. Don't know what it would cost, and I don't think Houston would be willing to do it, to be frank. Detroit Pistons, this feels like the most reliable Kyrie Irving team. Kyrie's kind of that middle-class trade option that you don't have to give up your entire future for, but it's also, you're not going to get an asset in return for. It's not a Ja, it's not a Trae Young. He's got that middle-class trade option, and I think that's a perfect type of guy that Detroit should go after to, pursue their title hopes right now. Golden State Warriors, they're going to be by far the most desperate team in the NBA and by far the most desperate team on this list. Put down 3 names: Giannis, Donovan Mitchell, or Kawhi Leonard, or LeBron James. Make it 4. There's been a lot of smoke about, hey, if LeBron doesn't sign with the Lakers, it's going to be to Golden State because of proximity to family. I think LeBron ultimately ends up in LA, but LeBron feels like Golden State's fallback option. They were by far the most aggressive team in February, them and Miami, and I wouldn't be surprised if they end up with a superstar next to Steph Curry because they badly need it. Oklahoma City Thunder, they just need first-round picks to stay flexible. They don't need to trade Chet Holmgren. We don't need to do all that. That's what they need there. The Orlando Magic, they need more shooting. Like always, they went out and got Desmond Bane and still need more shooting. And Isaiah Joe is an interesting name. Can OKC afford to pay all these guys? I don't think so. That would put them deep in the second apron. I don't envision them staying there and doing that. The Philadelphia 76ers, next team on this list. They can only do so much outside of Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, Paul George, and Joel Embiid. Their 5th highest paid guy is Dominic Barlow. They need a bench, and you saw that badly when they got swept in the second. Yes, they beat the Boston Celtics, but that good taste in their mouth did not last long after what New York did to them and pretty much did to everybody, not named the Atlanta Hawks. I think a Terrence Shannon Jr. is a low-cost option there that could give you some pop off the bench. It'd be a high price. You'd have to pay Minnesota. But I don't know what else your options are. Bob Myers going to try to cook something up. We'll see. Phoenix Suns. I've constantly said this is a Ja team, but just to have something different and not do the Jalen Green for Ja Morant deal for them, I think an alternate deal they should look at would be Jalen Green for Zion Williamson. They need a scoring 4 next to Devin Booker. They need a scoring 4 next to Dylan Brooks. I think this team has enough defense with Mark Williams anchoring it. And Zion, it would feel like a team that's actually built to win around him, unlike whatever the hell is going on in New Orleans. So it would get you off the JG contract as well. Jalen Green, you could trade straight up for Ja. You could trade straight up for Zion. Take your pick on whichever one. I think the real sin that Phoenix could commit is if they do nothing at all. Because if they do nothing at all in this West, they're not going to get very far. And their season's going to have a completely different tone to what it did this season. Portland Trailblazers secretly feels like a Trey Murphy team. His team was willing to give up their entire future for Giannis at the deadline. They've kind of cooled their or hit the brakes on that because Giannis is not willing to sign an extension past next year in Portland. So it feels like they're going to get the next big fish, and that is Trey Murphy. Sacramento Kings, I just put meh. I don't know. Comment below what the Sacramento Kings should trade for this offseason. I don't know. San Antonio Spurs, I said it. I think De'Aaron Fox for Kevin Durant would be very interesting for them, and I listed out the reasons why at the beginning of this podcast. Next up, Toronto Raptors. I think De'Aaron Fox, this is another landing spot for him, but I put Devin Booker on the thumbnail, and the reason why is I know D-Book wants to stay in Phoenix. However, I could envision something maybe happening at the deadline if Phoenix starts to go the wrong way and they just want to completely blow it up. Toronto feels like a perfect spot for Devin Booker. They'd have to give up a lot to do so. It'd be Emmanuel Quickley. It'd be RJ Barrett. It'd be several first-round picks. But the Raptors aren't in a very expensive spot to be losing in the first round of the Eastern Conference. I know it went 7 games. It was still the first round of the Eastern Conference playoffs. I'm sorry. De'Aaron Fox and Devin Booker, they need to shake something up to be able to move forward. The Utah Jazz, Kason Wallace, have some type of role-playing guys to support your new core. The number 2 overall pick, Jaren Jackson, Lauri Markkanen, Walker Kessler, whatever you want to name. I think everybody needs 3D guys, and Kason Wallace can be that. Washington Wizards, final team on this list. I put shooting. Max Strus feels like a cheap option there. Obviously, they're going to want to re-sign Trae Young to a cheaper deal on Monday in free agency. Excited to see what happens there. But thank you guys so much for watching. We'll be right back next week. Joel will be back after celebrating his championship parade with the New York Knicks, or their championship parade with the New York Knicks. Super excited for them. And y'all be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. We are here every single Thursday night and dropping short form content every single week. Super excited for the future. Got a lot planned in store for you guys. I'll be at Summer League in 3 weeks, and I'll be recording an episode from there as well. You guys have a great rest of your week. Peace.